Hey, Off Color fam. This little announcement is for our local Denver family. We will be recording a live episode of Off Color at Hope Tank, located at 64 South Broadway in Denver, Colorado. That will be Thursday, July 12th, and it is going to be lit. I'm also hosting an event called MTOB, More Than One Box, a mixed gathering. It will be Saturday, August 18th from 10 to 5. We'll screen the film, All Mixed Up Are Changing Racial Identities. There'll be art and panelists and music. And we do have some discounted tickets online, so look for us on Facebook for MTOB. And just hit us up if you have any questions. All right, we're coming to you from the basement. This is Off Color, and I'm your host, Rebecca Henderson. I got the producer and the white homie, James. Hi. And tonight we have a pretty full house here in the basement. We have Victor Galvan Ramirez.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Victor, we're really excited to have you here. I'm going to let Victor introduce himself in a moment, but then we also have the great Elisabeth Epps in the house. So welcome, Elisabeth.
That's a bit extra, but I'll take it.
I feel like you should learn to take a compliment.
I'm going to work on it. Thank you. The great Rebecca.
Okay. And then she doesn't even have a last name. We just call her Danette. Danette is a jazz singer, songstress, artiste, and we are so happy to have you here. And in addition to that,
thank you.
We also have our live studio audience. Studio audience! Yay! All right. So we're going to just start getting into it right away. I know that Victor, can you just do a quick intro about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Victor Galvan Ramirez, and hailing down from Chihuahua, Mexico. A lot of my story is based in my mother's story, and came here with her when I was 8 months old. Grew up in a single parent household after suffering under an abusive father. Saw my mom really fight for our lives. Selling burritos, tamales on the streets, seeing that any job that she got, she'd be either exploited or she'd be fired because of her legal status. And that's how I grew up, understanding that we didn't belong and that at any moment in time we could be exploited and taken advantage of. I never wanted to feel powerless, and getting into my adolescence really took a hold of that, fighting for things like the DREAM Act, comprehensive immigration reform, and for me personally, getting into the movement because of tuition equity. I grew up knowing that I was not going to go to college, and that's how I got into the fight. I actually just reached my 6th year at the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. I'm the director of membership and engagement. I actually just got back from sabbatical, and I thought that was a white thing.
It is.
And no, I am very, very, I have that the privilege of working with the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, and I had the opportunity to take some time because these past 2 years have been hell, so being able to step back from the work, but coming into this atrocious moment where kids are being separated from their families at the border, and honestly, that has been my biggest nightmare, and really the reason why I have fought for immigrant rights. I don't want to come home one day and know that, I have to look for my mom, whether at ICE or at some detention facility. So that's why I have been fighting, and I continue to fight because family separation, is a real thing. My older brother was deported, when I was 21. Just 6 years ago, I literally started this job when he had been deported. And my dad self-deported because, he had gotten in trouble with the law, and we knew that was the final recourse. So, family separation is a very real thing, and what's happening at the border right now is just monstrous. This government has created a real life boogeyman for my countrymen and a lot of Hispanos and Latinos. So I'm working and fighting to change that. This administration needs to realize that its people are not going to stand for kids being locked up in cages, parents being separated from their children.
Yeah. All right, I'm not gonna lie, your intro kind of bummed me out a little bit, but we're gonna keep going, okay? So, Elisabeth, would you mind just giving us a quick Cliff's Notes of yourself as well? Because I feel like some people know you, some people don't, but.
Of course. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm Elisabeth Epps. I'm with the Denver Justice Project. We exist for three primary reasons. We, the Denver Justice Project, DJP. We exist, one, to transform the culture of policing. Low-key, that means abolishing the police. Second, to end mass incarceration and/or end over-incarceration. And third, to achieve racial justice and racial equity. I'm a big fan of you, and so I'm having a little bit of a fangirl moment sitting across from you, Rebecca Henderson, the great Rebecca Henderson. Bummed out but encouraged to be sitting with Victor. Thrilled at the spaces in which I know we already work together to write those things. He's talked about specific examples with his personal life, with his brother, with his mother, with his work. These things point to, right now we're sitting physically in occupied Mexico. And so the intersection of how we can abolish policing and end mass incarceration is directly related to achieving equity right at the border and beyond. I mean, this border is a man-made line. So by way of introduction, I appreciate you having us. And DJP, we are collectively a fan of you and your work.
Thank you. I'm freaking out because I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, group hug.
Okay, but for real though, also upsetting the work that we define ourselves by, that we have to do for these things. So I'm kind of like, I'm like, Danette, tell us something good, girl. Introduce yourself, please.
Tell me something.
Hi, I'm Danette. I sing jazz. I have raised two beautiful Black and brown children in this community. Things like making the world a better place is important to me because that's important to the future of my children and my descendants, and I am a part of this country and I intend to make it better if I'm going to spend time here. So yes, I'm always here for the conversation, but I'm all about that artistic expression and creativity, so that's what's up.
Yo, this may be like our dopest gathering yet, honestly.
Maybe?
Okay, it is. I mean, I have to wait until we see how the episode turns out. Okay?
Fair enough.
All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about in my personal life that recently happened that have, I feel like all of them kind of tie into the work that you guys do. So last weekend I had the privilege of going to the Aspen Ideas Festival. Aspen Ideas is some fancy pants thing, costs a bunch of money, yada, yada, yada. I was someone's plus one. So I was able to go there with my best friend, Samita. Samita Bukapadai. If you don't know her, you should know her. She's the executive editor of Teen Vogue, and she's also my bestie. That's right, I'm name dropping. What? So I went up there because she said, I'm moderating a panel with Ava DuVernay. And I said, can I meet? I said, can I meet Ava? Do I get to meet Ava? And you know what she said? No. She said, no, girl, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But she was like not committing to that. But what she did commit to was she had run out of clothes because she was coming back from Cannes, like a fancy pants. And we are both plus size women. And so I was able to roll up there and bring her a whole new wardrobe. So I'm pretty sure that's the real reason I was invited. But anyway, I did actually get to meet Ava DuVernay, and it was like probably one of the greatest moments of my life. Obviously it was awesome. She hugged me. She took pictures with me. It was really fantastic. The reason I'm talking about that is because I want to brag about it, but also because then the closing event, it was Spotlight Health. It was the kind of like the precursor to Aspen Ideas. And one of the guests that they had was Ai-jen Poo. And I don't know, are you familiar with her at all? Do you guys know who she is?
Yeah, I don't have her cell phone number, but...
Okay,
definitely.
so she's an American activist, and she's the director of the National Domestic Workers Alliance, and she is also the co-director of Caring Across Generations, a national coalition of 200 advocacy organizations working to transform the long-term care system in the U.S. I'm obviously reading this from Wikipedia, and she is dope as fuck.
Yeah, well, damn.
Yeah, okay. And so the panel, the two people that Samita was interviewing were Ava, and I just call her Ava now because we're such good friends. And Ai-jen. And Ai-jen started speaking about, she had just come back from the border, and she was telling a story about how they were trying to check on these children, and they were like trying to reach out to them, and they were just crying, and it was so upsetting. This is like a major event, and she's sitting there, and she started crying, and then we all started crying, you know what I mean? Because it was really emotional. It was just so intense to think about, like, this is what's going on. And the thought that I had, one of the reasons I love the idea of having the both of you on tonight, Victor and Elisabeth and Danette, for our soul singing. But I feel like, because all I could think was, I'm like, this is not a surprise to me. I don't know why people are acting surprised that we're going to separate mothers from their children. This is America. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people have completely forgotten about, like, the legacy of slavery, and I mean, even that, just, that's like old-timey stuff, right? We all know about that. But then we can think about all the times that children are taken from their mothers through the child welfare system. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much going on here. So it's not a new thing. And I guess I just wanted to, I don't even know, like, where to start. Honestly, I was like, oh, let's do this podcast. You know how me and White James do. We're like, yeah, we're going to talk about stuff. I don't even know where to fucking start, because it's been so crazy. I have a list here, and I'm just like, okay, let's start with family separated at the border. Oh, shit, right? Then my list is like, Muslim ban. Then we lose Kennedy off the Supreme Court, right?
Good riddance.
So he was a Reagan appointee. I'm aware of that, okay? I'm just saying, we did get some affirmative action out of it.
Yeah, it was also a moderate vote.
Yeah, like reasonable to a certain extent. No, okay, I know you have things to say, so we're going to get into it. But that's what's on my mind this week, is like this idea of what can we do, what's happening, and I just feel like things are just like, it's declining faster than I thought. And I thought it was going to go fast, but I didn't think it was going to go this fast. I didn't realize we were going to have concentration camps and shit, like, right now. Mm-hmm. So, does anyone want to speak to that? So,
I actually want to share an anecdote.
Thank you.
I had just said that I got back from sabbatical, mm-hmm. and I honestly, I planned this sabbatical in a way that it was supposed to be healing, but also I wanted to learn from the experience. So I actually took the leap and went and drove through the South, a place that, you know, traditionally for me and my own biases, I believe to be very hostile, scary, violent. And I learned the exact opposite. It was beautiful. Honestly, the people that I encountered, whether white or black, were very welcoming and at least tolerant of me. I was very vocal about the reason that I was doing the trip and who I was and what I did. And I did find, even from like the plane ride from here to Florida, I found people who were in opposition of my points of view, still were willing to talk to me and were courteous. I don't know what they'd say behind my back, but
I do.
Besides that, you know, the culture and the exposure to the history was the most valuable part of my trip, because I was able to learn, you know, from the point of view from, you know, people of color. And for me, that was the biggest gift on this trip. But what you said was very true. This is not a surprise. You know, having babies torn apart from their parents is the historical reality of this country. Mm-hmm. Women in slavery were torn apart from their babies all the time. Right? That is not, I mean, Native Americans.
Well, they were stealing babies in the 60s.
Yeah.
So I did a film. My film is called All Mixed Up or Changing Racial Identities. I always plug my own shit at any time. But one of the people I interviewed was a full-blooded, I think she's Apache. Anyway, but she is full-blooded, and she was a baby that was taken from the reservation, her and a brother, and given to family, and she was given to a white mother and Hispanic father. Mm. But anyway, I'm saying, but that's a lady I just interviewed that is not like old, you know, like she was taken in the 1960s.
We've been there before, and we can be there again. You know, mm-hmm. A lot of these laws and a lot of the executive orders have set precedents in this country so that we can be in that moment whenever the right president or the wrong president at this moment snaps their fingers. And that is the scary situation in which we're living in. But in contrast to that very scary reality, I also want to say that the people have been resilient, and seeing, these initiatives, these, people of color, and these powerful movements throughout the ages that have persevered and continued to chip away at this injustice have really set a platform in which right now we need all Americans to step on.
And what about, okay, so here's the thing. As you're talking, I'm like, but then at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel it. I'm sorry. I don't feel it. I don't think that, all Americans are going to get on board. I don't feel like this is a country that wants you or you or you or you or you or me. They love White James, okay? Until White James start talking, till his lips start flapping, okay? But I feel like they don't want us here.
So, can we go back for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
It's been a minute since that question you posed, right? I am so over this idea of civility and
yes.
I'm from the South. In some of the cities that you named, I have a 6'4", 21-year-old black son who is a college junior in Montgomery, Alabama, which for those who know their history is one of the capitals of the Confederacy, and we lived in all of them. Okay, so this idea of a kinder, more polite racism, a respectable F that. Right? We have lowered a bar embarrassingly low, if it's, and I mean this respectfully, but that we would have to voice that we travel and someone didn't call us the N-word or didn't call us a wetback. That shouldn't be worth noting. That should be baseline, right? And being here and I don't mean to sound radical in saying it, but I do believe this is occupied Mexico. And so the fact that my black son, who's now taking classes and working in Montgomery, Alabama, which if you visit looks like 1968, right? It is a walking, living civil rights museum. The fact that I feel, I won't say safer with him in Denver, but even less safe with him in either of these places is a commentary that we aren't moving in the right direction. You mentioned whether or not people want us here. We're past that point, right? I'm here. I'm black. I'm blackity black. My son is black. If we choose, it's by choice, right? If we choose to go, it's by choice. If we stay, this is where we're going to be. I want to think in a conscious, aggressive way about how we who have, there's this spectrum of, I don't know if I even like that word, but of privileges, right? So I happen to be, folks can't see me, but some folks act like they don't know what I am. Denver police know I'm black, right? That's not something they ever have an issue with. But I'm traditionally able-bodied. I'm a citizen. It is my responsibility. I'm not putting this on anyone else, but it is my responsibility to use those privileges that I have to be an active advocate for those who don't have those. And so the fact that it means a lot to me as someone who, before I lived in Colorado, as my son, the aforementioned son, pointed out, everywhere we'd ever lived fought for the Confederacy. Okay? So Richmond and Charlotte and Winston-Salem, these places put then black and brown and American Indian lives on the line to fight for a nation where they weren't even recognized as humans, right? Where they couldn't own things, setting aside whether we want to own things, where they couldn't marry. And to move from that to a time where we're now looking at these lines and wondering, can we tear apart families? We have to do better. And I don't even have the intellectual or emotional space to congratulate people on being polite. Maybe I did last year, but I'm fresh out of that.
I feel you. And I feel like that's where I'm at as well, where I don't care anymore. Where people are because I saw a tweet and I feel
care.
No, I care. I care.
I know what you mean.
But I feel I saw a tweet that summed it up for me, and it was, "Fuck this, spread love. Let's spread justice."
That was me.
Well, shit. But seriously,
I definitely.
I don't need people love
It's the Brooklyn way.
Our people are definitely there. I have seen just earlier this I'd say earlier this month, you know, we had people posting like abolish ICE. And,
Oh, I'm ready.
You know,
Today.
somebody
Tomorrow.
actually said, and like I'm standing behind this, like let's make abolish ICE the centrist position and fucking prosecute ICE be the leftist position, right? Like I'm talking, that's real, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that's how I fucking feel. That is how I fucking
Yeah.
feel. Like,
Yeah.
fuck these Nazis.
So that's
who are
where
like,
I'm at too. No,
you know,
I feel like,
taking up
oh
these
God,
spaces.
that is my thing. I said it earlier today, but I'm just like, I want to get. I'm like, let's get radical for real. Then.
So can we leave the code word civility for the duopoly and us like
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I
So
don't
that-
have
that's
any. I don't have
baseline.
any.
That's
Sure.
baseline.
I have a question for you, Danette.
Sure.
Cheers, baby.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Wait. What about me?
Yes, yes.
Cheers.
Oh,
I'm waiting.
cheers. Cheers.
I'm
Okay.
waiting.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Okay,
Cheers.
question.
Cheers.
Abolishing ICE.
All right. So I want to know, what do? Oh no, wait. Sorry. Hold on.
Hold on. I mean, expand that, right? Not just ICE. I'm talking about like abolish private prisons,
ICE,
abolish
ICE, which are the last three letters of which word? Police. Abolish it all. Abolish
Okay.
the
So
police.
And for those of you
For
that
people
don't
who
know-
would say that that's a radical statement, that we're going to abolish the police, we're going to abolish ICE,
Right.
like, that sounds like crazy talk, right? Not
I'll
I'm
go
asking
with
the wrong
yes on
person.
radical, no
Okay.
on crazy talk.
Right.
Okay, sure.
So, but I think if we can dismantle things like the EPA, right? If we can
Scott
dismantle,
Pruitt is down.
right? So no, but if we can dismantle that, right? If we can dismantle our education system and just
And that's
throw
regular
it in the garbage-
conservative
That's
shit.
regular
That's not
conservative shit.
radical.
Why the fuck can't we dismantle ICE? Why can't we get rid of ICE?
Capitalism.
Why can't we
and
get rid of
mind you,
borders?
ICE did not exist fucking 14 years ago. 14 years ago, ICE did not exist.
Shout out to those of us who have been saying fuck ICE since it was fuck the INS.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Rebecca, can we go back to what you said about when you said why can't we? Like if whether or not it'd be radical to talk about abolishing these institutions?
Yeah. Well, sorry. Were you going to answer that?
As we abolish sort of all of these other things that we need is sort of what I heard you asking. It's
Yeah.
like,
Why can't we? Yeah, because
abolish
So we
If
can,
we can
and we
abolish an
will.
education
And you
system.
you asked a question, two questions before, right, in terms of why they don't want us here. In a practical way, right, we're looking at 2042, 2043, so people can't see who's sitting around this table, but it's people whose very identities are a mix of the best of this place, right? Whether it's identities that are our ethnicities, our race, our identities in terms of our sexualities, in terms of even white James, not to call it his family, but he's made conscientious, active choices to like grow his family in a way that represents the best of America. So the they that we're talking about, right, they're scared because they're worried that, and they being a white, cis, straight, capitalist, waspish, to throw back to my era, right, that's gonna go away. Right? But that has never been the identity of this land. We whose land this is, we who are making decisions, we who are out here taking our streets, taking our courts, all of these, we will end this. 15 years is nothing in the arc of much less history, but America. No, this is going to happen. We will do this, right? And when you see the regular, I want to say this in a not offensive way, when you see regular PTA type folks realizing like, oh no, you can't tear apart families like this. Like when even they get the message. So when you ask, why can't we? No, we are, and we will. And we know that there's a diversity of tactics that are necessary to make this happen, right?
Yes.
Part of it is what you're doing, having these conversations, right? Where people can understand that they're not the only ones having these thoughts. It requires, right, our legal workers. It requires people, especially white people, willing to put their privilege and their bodies and their liberty and their safety on the line to take back streets. And what they're doing in Portland to shut down these centers, we're doing those things. And it's not that we need to like rest on our laurels and do a collective pat on the back, but like this work, and here I mean this work of working for a world that feels better for those of us who are parents, right, for our children, we're doing it. And like we can't stop, but this is a moment we're going to live long enough to see that we fix this. ICE is going to be gone, and then we get to the next thing, right? So in answer to the question of why can't we, know we are.
It's like you're saying they want you here, but they don't want us here. Do they really want white James, who seems like he wants to live a
No.
wholesome life, wants to raise good kids with a good education within reason? You know what I mean? There's a lot of white Americans that I don't think even fall into this cis, white, upper middle class or upper class.
do you know
they
what's
don't fall
scary,
into
though?
this, and I think they're going to get left behind.
No,
and
no,
I think
but
unless they understand that it's not in their best interest, either racism affects everyone. For instance, Trayvon Martin's murderer did not go back to a black community. He did not go back to a Latin community. He went to a white community to lay his head at night. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then ended up pulling a gun on 2 other white people before they finally locked him up again. So my question to white America is this some privilege thing? Is it really inclusive of you in the ways that you think? Is it time to reevaluate your inclusion in this white supremacy American dream? Because it doesn't seem like everyone's going to benefit.
It is worth pushing back, though, on that narrative of, like, Audre Lorde taught us that the master's tools, like, will not dismantle the master's house. So just because, respectfully, White James, just because white people did this wrong for 400 years doesn't mean we'd have to, right? So we're just a few decades away from when people who aren't presenting as white are going to be the majority. It would be a mistake to think that we're going to treat the white minority, right, in some sort of vindictive way.
Yeah.
In that way, when you ask what do they want, they're scared, right? It's that notion of being born on third base and rounding right home and thinking you hit a grand slam or a home run. No, you didn't, right? So when you push back at that and recognize that we who, and here I mean the we who are going to be in that majority, we don't have to govern in the way.
I know, but that's what I say. I feel like they're always where the fear comes from is they're afraid that we're going to do to them what was done to us.
And I think it's a little bit of a healthy fear to an extent, right? Because it's hard for me to even conceptualize what is a more terrifying fear than recognizing you don't deserve that which you have, right? You didn't earn that which you have, right? And they know, I don't know, do they listen? Are they hearing this? But, like, don't let them know we're better than that, right? We're better. I might be better than that, but the others are. Victor?
I mean, you make a lot of very good points. I honestly want to preemptively, like, I appreciate that you have the optimism to say in 15 years, we're going to fucking destroy ICE. Because you know what? At this point in our adventure, like, the president had to sign an executive order to save his ass. And we saw that. Even at least in the media, he was able to cover that. He said, I'm far too scared of the American public to even go through with the full plan. They fucking threw out, Stephen Miller, the guy who fucking drafted this plan. That guy is out.
That guy's a Nazi, yo.
Yeah. I mean, we know that. But what I'm saying is,
With respect to Nazis.
Sorry.
I absolutely believe in our democracy, and
Do you?
I am with you. I do.
Oh.
I do.
When you said
I do.
our? Is it our democracy?
It is our democracy.
Is that aspirational or is that actual?
That is actual. This is coming from an undocumented person can't vote. This is an undocumented person has never has the ability to vote. I believe in our democracy. And that, even
That's
giving
heavy.
us the opportunity to vote, and to
Did they give it to you?
We took it back.
There you go. Sorry, but like even that notion of like this idea that they would give us. No, this is yours.
So we took the opportunity to vote, right? And like I am seeing people in the masses, and this is my work. I am the engagement director at CIRC, and I see people, on a daily basis change their mind on whether or not they're going to vote and who they're going to vote for, what they're going to vote for, the reason. And I mean, this, in the most probably the worst parts in our history, our people have risen up and challenged the status quo. And we have grown from that bit by bit, right? I mean, everything from abortion to the right to vote for women, blacks, all of those things have been in the precipice, right, of probably the most horrible point in the epiphany, right, of our country. Said, this is fucked up. We got to change. And I think we're at that moment right now. I honestly want to say is like, when we marched, after Trump got inaugurated, seeing the Women's March and seeing a lot of people represented, although, I mean, there are a lot of people. Hey, self-representation is important.
Good save.
Self-representation
That's
is
some
important.
bullshit.
Intersectionality is
Self-representation is important.
That was the most
No,
intersectionality.
You know what? You said you're undocumented.
Important.
Yes.
You are ready to be documented because that was some white man American shit right
But-
there.
Can I ask
Listen.
a question?
No, we are coming to the table. We
I'll
are
take
coming
it.
to the
I'll
table.
take it.
And
I'll
that's
take
what
it.
I'm saying. Is like Trump has become the fucking great unifier, right? In quotes.
Who said that?
I'm saying that he's become the great unifier because we're looking at each other. I mean, I am reaching across the aisle with my
Okay.
black and white,
Indirectly.
brothers and sisters. Like I'm talking to Muslims, which traditionally Latinos, we're about to become the majority in 50-50 or in
2050.
In 2050, right?
You're 43.
And I mean, we need to start having these conversations because as we
Also
we'll be-
need to recognize that those aren't separate groups. We talk about these things as if they're distinct, right? Muslim and people of color and Latinos and blacks as like, ooh, you got some people sitting at this table who fall into more than one of those boxes.
Absolutely.
If they're boxes.
Absolutely. But, those categories fall within themselves, when it comes to the status quo. When you talk about,
fuck
these
the
things in the
status
media,
quo.
right?
Oh, shit.
I am with you. I am with you. I'm with you. But when
the
you
status quo.
when you get to the point, right? When you get into the conversation, Muslims are Muslims, Latinos are Latinos, blacks are blacks, and we are the intersection, right? The organizers, the people who are willing to speak up and fucking learn about our issues and our history. We know that a lot of this oppression is rooted in the same white privilege bullshit, right?
What
Danette,
about
girl.
Latinos?
Danette, back it up.
What about Latinos who check the white box? Your thoughts?
Absolutely.
Or don't even
No,
have
no,
an
you know
option.
what?
Or don't have-
I'm
right, if
getting
you're
there.
in Denver,
I'm getting there.
you don't have that choice, right? In terms of checking the
drink
box.
this?
Well,
But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So I was saying, we need to be preemptive because this moment of intersectionality, right, which is, our own choice, right? Our own choice at the moment, because we're
which choice?
to
Because
start
this
talking
is,
to
I woke
each
up
other.
today and was blackety black without any options.
But I'm saying the choice to talk and
take it.
speak to each other, learn from each other's struggles, and to realize
Do you not think that's a survival? Like when you say a
It
choice,
is.
like right? Because you are okay.
it is.
I get.
It
Yeah,
is.
you're right.
But I mean, Trump has put us in this position, right?
No,
You don't think so?
I think we give this person way too much. I declined to say his name, but 45 too much power. And when I listen to you, as much as I've done this work, Victor, I recognize there's this part I want to ask you offline about how I can be a better, forget being an ally, being an accomplice to what you as an individual and what you as an organization want to obtain. Because no, this person he does give the person in the White House right now. He certainly gives.
Is he a person?
Sure.
Okay.
Because because I know people
So
like
generous.
in the chromosomal type way. Sure, I mean he's not debatable. But just saying that I'm agreeing with you more than I'm letting on. But just to say that the deference that is given to him, there may or may not be some respect, air quotes, deserving of the office. But this idea that things have markedly changed because of him. What has changed is I think undeniably certain racists feel more emboldened to be public with their racism. However, those who were not latent racists did not get racist. That's not a thing that happened, right? And I want us to feel, even in the ways in which we defer to this is our space, right? I'm not required to. I talk to you because you are my brother. Right, you're my people. Right, we're sitting here. This is our land. This is our space. Folks who want to marginalize us. Right, when you talk about being undocumented, we are literally talking about a piece of paper. Forget that. I have a very expensive law degree from one of the finest of those law degree places, right? It is not this piece of paper that says you are as valuable and you matter. We don't need those sort of external things to validate. And I want to know how to be a better accomplice to you, but I also want to say a giant F you to that person in that White House and his accomplice, because he's got accomplices, right? He's got accomplices named Sarah Sanders, right? And Secretary Nielsen, who's from here in Colorado.
Fucking Jeff Sessions.
From where my son is, right? My black son in Montgomery, Alabama, Jeff Sessions, who Coretta Scott King told us literally 30 years ago.
Yeah.
She wrote a handwritten letter to the Congress and it basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it said, heads up, he's a racist. This is a bad choice, right? So she told us, side note, trust black women, right? They've been telling us about these people. So there's a way in which what I might just have to say to you offline is that I understand that I'm sitting here in a space where I'm a targeted individual in some ways, in terms of my activism, in terms of police presence. But my citizenship, before I moved here, from having always lived in capitals of the Confederacy, before I moved here, I didn't have a true appreciation of how freeing it was to move about these streets and know that no matter what happened, I wasn't going to be deported. I wasn't going to be sent to a country where I didn't speak the language, where I didn't know immediate family members. So even as we're talking, there's a part of me that wants to infuse you with this. Why are you being so nice to them? Fuck them. What are you talking about? This is your space. Woo, shit. You said that you moved here at 8. Do we have a censor button? To the extent that you mentioned that you moved here with your mother at 8 months old.
Yes.
This is your space. You feel that, Victor?
Oh,
Do you know that?
I definitely know that.
Say it
Denver
again.
and Colorado is my home.
Denver and beyond.
And beyond.
This is your space.
I moved throughout this country, and I know that this is where I belong.
So, as a person with a law degree, as a person who is born into citizenship, I want to be there for you in terms of knowing that why should you have to qualify where your mother was at 8 months old, right? When you were 8 months old, rather. This is a failure on our part of those of us who have the relative privilege of being born with a piece of paper, right? Something made from a tree. That is arbitrary. That is arbitrary. And yet, even as you're speaking, right? I've been doing this work for decades, right? And I'm realizing that I'm listening to you. I wonder how gauged and how guarded I might have to be if I was thinking ooh, I don't have to worry about immigration issues. So it's a lesson for me in how I need to, with your permission and with your step up for you, right? It is hurtful to me to hear you be so kind to a system that has really not been kind to you.
I have also, I have been working in the political field for about 12 plus years, and that for me, to your point, I do tiptoe around talking points because that is my job. But beyond that, to Danette's point, I am going to be the majority in, right?
2043.
2043.
Yeah, just trust me on this one.
There is some very real
things.
There is some very real work that we need to do within our communities to prepare us for that change.
For that change.
Right?
And
Not only are we
incorporation
going to
of
get the
Afro-Latino.
real fucking white lash from this, we're
Thank
going to
you for
get a
saying
very real white lash. And let me repeat that, a very real white lash. Up until then, right? It may not happen for an extra 10 years.
It's already
because
happening.
of
You
the
gotta
deportation.
acknowledge-
It is literally
Right,
already
because of the
happening. I'm
deportation
sorry.
regime.
Colonization was broad. It was broad.
But-
everybody's gonna have to get it in check.
Nonetheless, it will happen at some point.
It's
Right.
happening.
It's
It is
already
happening.
happening.
It's happening.
It's
Right
already
now.
happening.
It is happening, but there is some very real work, and this is why I'm talking about the Great Unifier. This is why I'm talking about, this moment in which we're actually looking under a microscope how our movements collide and actually unite as one. Because my fear in the next 20 years, in the next 25 years, that Latinos may become the majority and we'll just become the new white people.
Well, do better. Okay, so do better, right? This is my charge to you, and again with Kimberly Crenshaw, Trust Black Women, and intersectionality. There's this idea of Latino or Latinx or Hispanic that is separate from a black identity, right? Is a false narrative. That is a colonized narrative. Is an oppressor's narrative, right? This I feel like I'm on auto repeat or sound redundant, but this is our land. These designations that would purport that we are anything other than a people united by a commitment to things like equity and to sharing water and air and land. This is not something that's arbitrary, right? This is our space. And when we, particularly people like me and like Danette, who are, you talk about boxes, right? So in Denver, Colorado, not all of Colorado, but you don't have an option if you identify, if you're a person who by birth is raised in a family that speaks Spanish, you get to pick from, I mean, you have 5 options, but you have white, you have black, you have American Indian, you have Asian Pacific.
Latinx.
No, not in Denver though. In terms of like,
Not in Denver,
I'm talking about
no.
the boxes, right? And we reject that,
You
right?
get,
So I just want you to, actually, I don't even want to put that charge on you in that way. I want to put that charge on me, right? Because as a black woman, there's a lot of spaces in which I'm not the one who has the relative privilege. But when we're talking about citizenship issues, I do, right? And so I'll take the brunt of that one. It's not just that we can be better, we will. And by the way, when we said in 15 years, it's not going to take 15 years to abolish ICE. This is happening, right? People are, oh, can I whisper? Can you whisper on a podcast? I don't want to be shouting out white people, but white people, there's white people in terms of when rabbis in Virginia, when school segregation issues were happening, who put their families and their safety on the line, or in Germany, white people have been not on their own, but have used their privilege in a way.
John
for
Brown.
good. Literally though, literally though.
I'm taking it back.
Literally
for real.
though, and we're seeing that in Denver and in Colorado, who are taking back that space and are saying, no, this idea of this unifier. I think that one of the things that is so important, I don't mean to just pat you on the back, but about podcasts like these, is reminding folks they are not in a silo. They're not alone, right? It's easy when you're going about the work of raising your children and going about taking care of your home and your land and your property and doing your job. You might think that you're the only one who thinks that's really not a good thing how we're treating people, right? And so part of the work that you're doing, Rebecca, is reminding, no, you're not alone in that, right? And so when I hear you, Victor, saying those things, I think it's really important to be intentional in naming that this is our space, right? This isn't something we have to wish, right? When they killed, before in 1967, before they killed Martin Luther King, we had to hear him say what he wished for his grandchildren. There are things we can wish for our grandchildren. We're going to live to see that. ICE is going to end, and then there's going to be another charge upon us. So how do we make sure that things like asbestos is not in the walls of poor and black and brown children? How do we make sure that lead isn't in the water?
I mean, and this for me is I go back to democracy.
I don't know.
Right? I go back to
signing
democracy.
off on all kind of stuff.
I say, people
But
like
that's 18
us,
months, though.
people like us need to be running for office.
Well, we are, right?
Are we
here in
though?
Denver-
Are we though?
Well, when you say
Are we, though?
I mean, I heard you say the importance of voting, and I bit my tongue because fuck voting. Just to the extent that,
no, wait a minute now.
respectfully, I always vote.
Okay.
Your voter record, side note, is public record. Not how you voted, but if you voted. So a personal point of contention for me is people who want to talk to me about, oh, it's so important to vote, and then I take 2 or 3 keystrokes and see that you missed that last municipal election. You didn't vote in that last school board election. I always vote. So yes, I'm asking for cookies to be patted on the back, but I always vote, so I do get to tell you, fuck voting, right? It's been literally 50 years since collectively the they, capital T, decided that me and people who look like me got to participate in their electoral process, okay? So when you hear someone say, you don't have a voice if you don't vote, fuck that. Are you telling me that black women didn't have a voice in this land before 1968? Are you telling me that brown men didn't have a participatory action in this democracy before 1960? Are you telling me that white, straight, cis women didn't participate in this, air quotes, democracy before 1919? Voting is one way to participate. It is neither necessary nor sufficient, and it is that second prong, Rebecca Henderson, that is so critical. It is not enough, right? So I've mentioned my son who's in Montgomery, Alabama. You may have heard about that election with Doug Jones last year versus Roy Moore. It came up that he knew, my son who's in university, right? It came up that he knew white women in Montgomery, the capital of Alabama, who bravely cast a vote for Doug Jones. Mm-hmm. And then he knew some straight up throwdown anarchists in the Gulf Delta who'd never voted, but who were providing water to people getting to polls, who were providing rides for people getting to polls, who were providing vote information about ID laws, and it never cast a vote. You want to tell me, right, that the black man who's never right? So,
that is not what I'm saying about voting. This is how I feel about voting, and I felt like this for a long time. And if you check my record, you will see I have not voted in every election since the time I was 18, right? Okay? Because sometimes, I travel, yada, yada, yada.
Because normal.
But that's fine, right? However, what upsets me is I feel like that narrative is what I would consider dangerous for people to think like, oh, my vote means nothing. Yes. My vote doesn't count. Because I feel like when you're saying that you have the intellectual capacity, you have the knowledge, the education, and you have this amazing mind, and you can understand, right? Because you're saying, even though I think XYZ, I still vote every election. I may not vote for this one. I might leave some boxes blank. I'm going to do what I do, right? But you have that power. But I feel like when somebody hears you say, oh, voting isn't that big a deal, you don't need to vote, I'm worried that they're like, okay, forget it, fuck voting. And at the very least, as my friend here, White James, said,
That's my friend.
He's also my friend, but it's that it does influence policy, and so we have to take some time to think about that too. And I
also want to name that there's voting in a higher office, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying people like us need to be reflected in every single election, not just at the polls, but as the people that those polls are deciding on.
100%.
I don't think that any election should go unchallenged by a person of color.
100% of that. We have to go back to you because in this case, I mean you, Rebecca, because we are way more alike than this little bit of time would allow. And just to say 2 points. One is when you say like someone will hear me and think it's okay not to vote, like newsflash, no one that's in my space, everybody in my space rather votes. They vote. And if they don't, and if they're thoughtful enough about it, then it is incumbent, because I have worked, this is not an exaggeration, I have worked every national campaign since 1992. That's 7th grade for me. Okay? Everyone since you know some people, but you don't know many people who have knocked more doors, registered more voters than me. Mm-hmm. It is incumbent when I'm knocking a door, it is not the responsibility of the potential voter on the other side of that door to be convinced. It is the responsibility of me as an emissary of democracy to help them understand how this is in their best interest. Mm-hmm. So the place where we overlap that I need help being better with the words for is, it is my responsibility to help people have access to, right, and be free from encumbrances to voting. But it is a myth, and we are in year number 50. Right? Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? The Democratic Party, 1968, that was a big ass year. Civil rights, that was big. But what have you done for me lately? And it reeks of white privilege and entitlement for those of us who happen to have black and brown ancestors who literally shed blood. They did not do that for the right for me to vote. Period, for one of the duopolist parties. So like the place where like I feel like gets left out in this, where I think we really agree, is we have to run candidates that are worthy of our vote. And we see this in Queens and the Bronx right now, right?
Ew, that was my news story.
Come with it. And by the way, side note, like this distinction between like this is right. We are in a point in 2018. We are living in a fantastic time. We are living in a time where socialists run as Democrats, right? And are willing to work within this system. And we see this beautiful 28-year-old sister who is brilliant and sharp and unapologetic and who is criticized for, my God, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I want to add, and I think I want to ditto what you said. The right incumbent, right, or the right candidate is important. I have seen democracy in action, and this is coming from completely oblivious, completely in denial of whether or not I have power as a person, period. Right? As a person, period. In 2012, we helped elect Senator Jesse Ulibarri into office.
And that's
Queer, Latino man, and stood by his community and fought by his community. We saw driver's license for undocumented people. We saw tuition equity for undocumented people. I had access to college for the first time in 2013. And on top of that, we repealed our Show Me Your Papers law here in Colorado. So, to that point, I believe in this democracy. I have invested my entire adult life, right? This has been short. I have invested every minute to making sure that we are educating people on their right to vote and making sure, and I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from. It is my responsibility to make that process as easy as possible. But I mean, we have changed ID laws. We have changed, policy at the state, at the county, and at the city level to make sure that people have the right to vote. Now, I mean, Colorado in itself, we're a male
Can you vote?
to vote. I can't vote.
So I vote for you.
Vote.
So go, just like you probably cut this part, Rebecca, but like I mean this from my heart. Part of why I vote is because you don't have that option at this point, and you should. But the thing we're talking about is engagement, right? The thing we're talking about is participation and using our respective privileges, right, to increase the opportunities for those with less privileges to have that, right? I'm bailing people out of jail. I'm recording ICE kidnapping people from jails. These terrible, nasty, violent, inhumane things that are happening. I do think that we who have these privileges, it is incumbent upon us to use them. But I also am very, very cautious about, my mother would say, when people say like, oh, you have to vote, my mother, rest in peace, she died when I was 9, but she said, the only thing you have to do is stay black and die, right? And that's not stay black and die, but if you take the stay black in the way that I'm told to stay black, that means you rally for your people, right? You free your people. You prioritize liberation in all the ways, not just from cages, but like these ways in which, suffice it to say, like we're gonna get there, and like voting is a way, right? But I truly, truly believe that in the same way that certain dead white men would have said that religion is the opiate of the masses, right? That voting for a capitalist is also a bit of an opiate.
Oh shit.
Okay, so when I
can't even argue with that.
But I'm here in Colorado.
I have to read the dissertation on this.
Yeah,
right. I'm a citizen.
Mark that. I want
Right,
to
but
go
no, but
deeper.
like what is particularly poignant about being in this space with you, right? I vote because I want to. Right? It is what matters is that the people who have relative more privilege than me make it that I'm not encumbered I'm not stopped. I'm not, there's not a hindrance to voting. But when the candidates are respective trash and slightly less trash, right? No, don't tell me. We're 50 years removed away from that. So I think that like there's almost like a semantics difference. I think that I'm looking across at you, Rebecca. What I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you want is access, and you want people to be able to, you should not have to take a day off from your minimum wage job to vote. You should not have to show an ID, right? Or that is ridiculous and complicated. You should not have to drive. I live in Greenwood Village, Colorado. When I decided to vote in person at this last primary, this sounds a little whiny, but there were only 5 places, and the closest one was 18 minutes away by car. Okay, I don't own a car. I was able to borrow one, but 18 minutes in a borrowed car is a lot, right? So that to me seems like too much. And mind you, I got there, and when it comes to my U.S. House of Representatives congressional district, I left it blank because they were 2 relatively indistinguishable white men who didn't deserve my vote. When you're running, Rebecca Anderson.
Oh, why did you keep asking me that?
Because my entire lecture about voting, right? So you go, side note, go to the Googles if your Googles isn't broken, And can you say Googles on the podcast?
Yeah, you're allowed.
That was White James. Go to the Googles to 1956 to right when I fuss at people about voting. I read really well, okay? But someone who reads even better than me is the W.E.B. Du Bois in 1956. So if you don't want to argue
I met
with me,
his grandson, by the way.
Long distance
in
high five.
2000.
Was he fine? Is he single?
He was like 80.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I did get to meet him, and it was pretty
My
cool.
name is Elisabeth Epps. I'm
You
almost 40, and
and I feel
I
like-
look 32, and I'm single.
My
Not for
point,
long.
though, was like in 1956, this essay that he authored entitled "Why I Am Not Voting This Election." I send it to people because I feel very seriously. When you read it, it is indistinguishable from something someone could say now.
Okay.
I'm sitting next to my brother. Victor, are you willing to be my brother?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right. So part of the reason why I vote, even when I leave it blank, is because Victor can't, and fuck that.
Yeah.
Okay. But the ideas that he outlined, and you asked why are people asking why you want to run, Rebecca? Because I'm telling you this as someone who, remember, I've worked every campaign since 1992. It is exhausting constantly fighting against things. It is exhausting and draining. Resistance is in my blood, right? I was born in 1979, and in 1980, and this is public record, if you Google my mother's name, Lynn Augusta Harper Epps, in Wake Forest University in North Carolina, she was arrested for arson and trespass because she, who was nursing a black child, who was me, climbed up onto the Kappa Alpha fraternity house, took down a Confederate flag, burned it, and then my grandfather had issues with this until he died. She wrote a letter to the editor claiming responsibility for it. Okay, so 20 years later, when young, beautiful Bree Newsome from Duke University shimmies her ass up the State House pole in Columbia, South Carolina, the issue is not, first of all, shout out to Bree Newsome, but it's why are we fighting the same shit?
Yes.
We supposed to be on the new shit.
There's some fucking Confederate
Victor!
generals in the front of
Right.
Denver Capitol,
So-
right? The Colorado Capitol.
Literally, right? Side note to those of you who were born in Colorado, y'all weren't even a state when we were throwing down back east and south. But my point in that is just saying this is born into us, right? This is not, we should be fighting new battles. There's a young brother from North Carolina who sang a song called, I won't start singing. He sang it at Harvard's commencement this year. And one of the lyrics is that when he's going to march on and he's going to sing on, he'll be damned if his children have to march for him.
No, well, that's what we've been saying the whole time is I can't stand the thought of my son having to do, and I hardly do anything.
Oh,
you
first
know?
of all, that's a lie.
So like I'm
And
just
if
saying,
you
I don't
believe
want
me,
him having
that's
to
a
do
lie.
the same
No.
shit that I'm having
I
to
hear you.
do.
We'll take that. No. You get half credit.
How?
We're not gonna say his name because no, I mean this, Rebecca. Right? My son, your son is 2.
Yeah,
Right? My son is, and he's fantastic. But my child is 20. Well, he's a young man. He's 21.
Yeah.
Your son will fight, but the goal is for it to be for different battles. Right? The idea is that when your son is in middle school and a girl raises her hand to answer a question in math class and a boy shouts over her, that your son will be like, dude, she was talking, be quiet. Right? Because that'll be baseline to, I'm not going to say your child's name, White James, but in the whopping half hour that I spent with your child's sense of self-assurance, like these are ways in which we're supposed to fight new battles. So when I'm sitting here with Victor, and I'm sitting here with y'all, and we have relative, I think everyone at this table is at least, is cis, right? What the world sees us as, we got that?
Depends on. Well, my husband watching from the corner, but yeah, in general, yeah.
Side note, I'm gonna get me a husband.
But my point is just that, like, these things are, it is our responsibility, and I mean this in an individual way. I'm not saying because life is
I didn't vote,
hard.
and I want to tell you why.
What? Oh shit!
I live in housing for 11 years in 5 Points in the same home. I basically raised my children in this home. 20 days before the voting election, no, 2 months maybe, 60 days, I get a notice that says you're out. We've bought the building. This is Denver. This is 5 Points. This is America. legalized marijuana. This all matters. You're out. You have 60 days to get out. If you can get out within 30 days, we'll give you $1,500. After 30 days, that number goes down by about $50 every couple days. Great. So we are scrambling. They put in our bylaws that you can't actually put these people out of our apartment building without finding them adequate housing or similar housing, which is impossible in Denver. I was paying $900 a month for a 3-bedroom, 900 square foot apartment. Long story short, they wrote a whole article about gentrification on myself and my family. Long story short, I scramble. I literally go to the Section 8 office and have a nervous breakdown. All out panic attack on the floor. People have to assist me. A woman comes from the back of the office. She says, "Who is this woman? What's her name? Let me see her file." "Oh, her name is the same name as my grandmother's name. I have to help her." She finds me an apartment. She puts me in that apartment with my 2 children. My children begin to immediately sort of push back. They're not happy about having to leave their neighborhood. They don't like our new apartment. They give me lots and lots of problems. About 30 days into our new apartment, around election time, someone knocks on my door. He's a white man. He looks like he does too many drugs. He's way too hyper for the particular environment he's in. I'm in a new environment. He doesn't reflect anybody from my community. In fact, I hesitate to answer the door when I look through the people because I don't know who this bleached blonde, really hyperactive man is at my door. I open the door. He says, "Hi, are you gonna vote? Today's the last day." I said, "Oh my God. I hadn't even thought about voting because I've been busy moving and transitioning my entire family from a neighborhood we've lived in for 11 years. He says to me, "Oh no, it's all good. I can tell you where you vote. Are you going to vote for Hillary?" And so Danette, the artist, activist, says, "Well, I don't know who I'm going to vote for right now. This is a crazy time we're living in." I'm thinking we're going to maybe... You came to my door to maybe invest in some dialogue or something like that. He says, "Oh, you're not going to vote for Hillary?" And I said, I don't know. A lot's been happening. What's Hillary doing for me lately? Piggybacking off what Elisabeth had said earlier. And he said, "Oh, well, if you're not going to vote for Hillary, I'm not going to tell you where you can vote." Because I said to him, I was like, "Well, this is a new apartment." I was like, "I just moved here. This is the election, boo."
You understand you have a...
Day before the election, I said to him, I was like, "Oh, I just moved to this apartment. I don't even know where I've been voting at the Black Library in 5 Points for as long
Blair
as
Caldwell.
Blair Caldwell.
Nothing I say represents the opinions of my employer.
I've been voting at Blair Caldwell since I was legally aged to vote. I don't know. Is there a new voting place for my new address that I've been newly gentrified to within the last 60 days? Oh yeah, if you're not going to vote for Hillary, I'm not going to tell you where you can vote." And the way he looked at me and the interaction that we had, and he could have no idea what I had just been through to even get into this apartment, which by the way is $1,100 for 500 square feet, 2-bedroom.
Say it again.
I had 500 square feet, $1,100 a month for a 2-bedroom for me and my 2 children.
In Denver, Colorado.
Gentrified out of 900 square feet at $900 in 5 Points that we had lived in for 11 years. He had no idea what I could have possibly been through and how that affected me. So when I closed the door, I turned Netflix on and I didn't think about voting again. I did tune in to see. It looked like Trump wasn't winning, but he could have had no idea what I had been through. My shit was still in boxes. Tell me where to fucking vote. So that's why I didn't vote. That's a true story. That's why I didn't vote. Somebody knocked on my door to say, "Hey, have you voted?" And I was actually going to go vote. And I haven't voted in all of the other elections. But he made me feel very uncomfortable.
When I hear a story like that, right? When I hear a thing like the story Danette just told us, that fucking makes total sense to me. Because guess what?
Right?
Guess what? I wouldn't have did that shit either. I would have been mad as fuck as well.
But what if she just didn't, not her individually, what if she just didn't fucking care?
I know who I would have voted for.
Who would you have voted for?
But again.
I would have voted for the third party too.
I was all Jill Stein, honestly. I would have voted for the third.
All of that is secondary to the fact that I'm yelling, but it's secondary to the fact that in Colorado, to the extent that we have an electoral college, it is beyond problematic. It is deeply insulting. Not you specifically, because you read things and you read them well, but it is deeply insulting for people to make sweeping generalizations like it is because of you all that we didn't get our candidate of choice because of math. Because in this, no, you shaking your head no, but like it is like if you want to the extent that we have to, I believe in a way more, right? You know, this linear shit is Western, is oppressors. We who identify as African are circular, right? This collective logic is we are in this together, right? So the Electoral College is a linear assessment. Because honest to God, G-D, California is all that matters in this scenario, right? The original gerrymandering is the thing that made a North and a South Carolina, that made a West Virginia and a Virginia.
Stop.
No,
because I
only
already
say,
know.
like, when you say,
I already know you are far more educated, far more knowledgeable on
but
this
that
topic.
is not the relevant point.
But it
the
kind
point
of
is.
is.
No, the point is that I have the relative privilege to read shit about it. You've downloaded an app on your phone, right?
Yes.
It's not a trick question.
No, I have.
When you've downloaded an app on your phone, there's something that you scroll down and it says, did you read the terms of service? You click accept or not. What do you click?
Accept.
There's a principle, psychological, economical, otherwise. You didn't read that shit, did you?
No.
But someone did. It's parallel to voting in that if we are doing democracy right, Danette, who has 2 gorgeous children and is out here making music, she shouldn't fucking need to care about voting. She should be able to care about voting if she wants to. We who have no life should be able to take care of it in the same way as TOS or terms of services. There should be some critical mass that we look out for the others. The option should be good enough that we who have time to spare and literacy skills and whatever else can collectively take good. You're shaking your head no, but
I'm only shaking my head because I feel like we're not totally understanding each other right now, and that's okay.
It's not about the problem. The thing that set me off is you saying educated. It's not about educated. No, it's not. It's not because that is a tool of like an external and
yeah, but I feel like you're thinking of education as XYZ, right?
No,
but I feel like you're the kind of person.
Self-determination.
You're the kind of person that takes care of business, right? You read, you check the facts. I bet you read all your shit before you press accept.
Or I leave it blank. I live in CD6. I Googled and I look at pictures of Levi Tillman and Jason Crow. I couldn't tell the difference. I left that shit blank. So
Word.
I wasn't interested in either. My only point in that is saying that like where I think we overlap is this incredible desire for it to be accessible and fair. But this is a new thing in this constitutional democracy. And like when I listen to, I don't want to put words in her mouth, when I listen to Danette talking about this, like right now, if you are a person of color or otherwise, if you are a person who is moderately awake, not woke, but just even awake, in Denver, Colorado, the options are trash. So it is to me a tool of a relative oppressor to say you have to participate in it. Fuck that.
Well, damn. I guess that's all you have to say about that. Except that I have to say, people still, you need to vote. So make sure you're registered. Get in there. These elections are important, and sometimes we don't have the best choices, but while we're waiting to make that happen, get thee to the polls. Feel me? 10 Tigers out.
Off Color is a presentation of Tan Tigress Productions, LLC, produced by me, James Meekum, hosted by Rebecca Henderson. I also did the music that you are hearing now. You can follow us on Twitter at Off Color Pod, on Facebook at Off Color Podcast. Go to our website, offcolorpod.com, and follow us on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.